Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, October 21st, 2022, coming to you from the Paris of the Midwest. I'm Jer Stays, and across the table from me is...
Devin O'Reilly. Great to be here, hanging out in the North End studio with you, Jer.
Just a little bit west of Woodward. We're west of the table still.
Just keep me west.
Always west, always west. All right. There is a lot to talk about today. So many stories I wanted to catch up with you on specifically. And let's begin with a little bit of our customary where have we been?
As a matter of fact, Jer, before this, I spent a little time west of Woodward, just west. I work all over the city in what I do. And so I was trying to just find a place to take some calls, take some emails before I came over here today. Mm-hmm. And normally, Great Lakes Coffee was my go-to spot because it was a great place to just kind of relax, grab a coffee. You could spread out a bit. That is obviously no longer an option.
R.I.P.
And frankly, towards the end, it got too crowded and you know.
Yeah, they missed the ball a little bit with that. Although I will mention in passing that it looks like Avalon has taken over their space in the Meyer Market, the Rivertown Market, and Royal Oak as well.
Maybe that means good things for the corner of Woodward and Alexandrine there. But I decided to go over to Congregation because I knew that seemed like it had the same vibe. And wouldn't you know it, it was just lovely. There was a good amount of people there. It wasn't too crowded. I could grab a table. You can get food there. You can get coffee there. You could get booze there, although it was a little early for me at the time. But it captured that like 2014, 15, 16 Great Lakes coffee vibe. And for those who know, if you know, you know, what a time to be there.
Well, and I kind of love that Congregation is in the neighborhood. They've always been very kind to us here at Daily Detroit. If you know, we had our 1000th episode party there, which you actually unfortunately couldn't make because of timing.
Right. But it was a great experience at the Congregation. I mean, I had been there before, obviously. I'd been there many times, but this was just a nice little, kind of confirmed that that's the place to go if you're in the area, if you're New Center, North End, Boston Edison area. It's just a nice place to hang out. Well,
it's really easy to get to if you are driving because it's not far off the lodge whatsoever.
It was very quick. I zipped over here from Dearborn and got to the Congregation in like 10 minutes.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I'm going to share someplace I've been, but it was years ago, and I will be able to go there again.
Well, you're kind of preparing some kind of a backwards riddle here for me.
It is. You know me. I like a good pun and a good riddle. Well, there is word from multiple sources that the Detroit Institute of Bagels is coming back.
I love DIB.
Oh, my God. There was something special. Like, we had David from John Oliver on the show. It's a really nice space that they did there, taking over the old DIB space in Corktown with the James Oliver coffee, which is, people might not realize, is like a bigger coffee brand, right? It's more of a flagship to their bigger coffee brand, as opposed to this, which is a bagel shop. I'm always glad to see more and additions and in different neighborhoods because this is going in the old Ochre space.
A perfect place because obviously the retrofitting becomes very easy. It was already a bakery, so I believe it'll probably be a relatively inexpensive retrofit to make this a bagel shop.
I hope so, yeah. And Phil Kafka, who a while ago was on the show, and I'd love to have him on again, has really delivered on some of the things he's wanted to do. He's somebody who, he doesn't work with like flashy press releases, but businesses set up over there. There is, of course, the natural evolution of things, but things happen. And he's got his residences over there. There's stuff going on. It's also a great location to serve Woodbridge. You can shoot right down Warren from Midtown and like Wayne State University. I'm looking forward to this. There is something special about the DIB bagel. I can't tell you exactly what it is from memory, but man, it would get me out of bed when I stayed in North Corktown. It would get me out of bed to go get a breakfast bagel from them.
So I was a lox and cream cheese guy with that everything bagel from DIB. That was my order. So I am like already dreaming of that.
So you are the lox guy. You're a lox guy.
I'm the lox man.
Okay. What is your favorite type of bagel? dailydetroit@gmail.com. I don't have exact timing as to opening, but the Metro Times says that they're aiming for a soft opening near the end of the year or at the beginning of next year. So bagels are on the close horizon, Devin.
I cannot wait, Jer. Our New York friends will have to weigh in. You're right. There's something special about a DIB bagel, and I haven't figured it out yet. But maybe we can kind of crowdsource this and figure out what it is.
In fact, if you've got other bagel ideas, places we should go, dailydetroit@gmail.com in the city or the suburbs. So there's a bunch of development news to talk about. One of them is, unfortunately, a subtraction. The news came this week, first reported by Crain's Detroit, that WeWork is leaving the Techtown neighborhood. And it is a beautiful space that you're pretty familiar with. In fact, if you look at the cover art of some of our episodes, we've taken your picture at the WeWork there. It is a gorgeous space and an old like car dealership and a big surprise to people. I think they've been only there a couple of years.
So I have some good intel on this just because for multiple reasons. Obviously, Jerry, we had a photo shoot there, a mini photo shoot when I was working out of there because I work out of WeWork a lot. This was the newest WeWork, but had become really their flagship. And it was, like you said, an old dealership. The showroom floor had become kind of the main lobby and main workspace. I had heard from WeWork executives that this WeWork was known as one of the most beautiful WeWorks in all of the country. Like they got compliments from all over. So to tell you that I was blindsided by this is an understatement.
Now, some listeners have shared in the in-between time that they feel like it was a quieter WeWork than others, that there wasn't as much activity there.
Well, it was just so big and vast, and I think that was a difference. The other two WeWorks, let's remind each other, that's part of the reason. I think there's some cynics who will say, oh, of course, well, WeWork was going under. Well, no, there's two WeWorks that are operating very well in downtown Detroit on Clifford Street and at 1001 Woodward. So those WeWorks are set up a little bit differently. Smaller floor plates, taller buildings, kind of different type of space.
Are there more individual offices in those other ones? Because the one in Techtown really struck me as a big general space. Like there's lots of like flex desks, but not as many like little mini offices.
So the third through fifth floors were all co-working spaces. There was actually still a lot of space in there.
Really?
But that also means the business model probably meant that you had to sell a lot of those spaces. So I imagine it was one of those things where you take on a massive building like that, and to make the numbers work, you got to lease out, let's say 60% at any given time. Maybe they were at like 25, 30% capacity, and that just couldn't work.
So it's a bit of a surprise because you'd think that there was a lease or something like that. Like it's only been a couple of years.
Yeah, usually the way these are structured, and again, we're not the experts, but I do have some intel on this, but you would think that a lease is structured so that there can't just be an immediate kind of exit of the lease, and this seemed so abrupt. I mean, I have it on some authority that, even the owners of the building were a little caught off guard by this decision, and suffice to say, so were the tenants. So we're still kind of figuring out what the reverberations of this will be, Jared, but it was definitely a big, big announcement and something that will really affect dozens of companies because all those tenants at WeWork are now going to be affected by this.
Do you think they would just be reabsorbed into the other WeWorks?
I'm not sure there's enough room in the other WeWorks. The other ones operate at a pretty high capacity rate.
Interesting. Do you see it as any sort of indicator, or because it's always been kind of tough to get non-university things sparked over there? Yes, there's Techtown. I'm not going to take away from that whatsoever. But in that area by Wayne State, like so much is Wayne State, right? Like even buildings you think are at the college are actually operated by the college.
That's our eds and meds cluster. That's what, Jeanette Pierce will tell you. That's what, thriving towns and thriving cities are built on, is the eds and meds, because they can invest back into that space and own buildings. They don't own this one. Obviously, a private developer, the platform does. But, you and I know people at the platform group. They are tremendous at, revitalization. They did the Fisher building, the Chroma building. I don't think they're going to let this sit long. It's such a gem. I believe that they will find some really cool uses for this. If nothing else here, it's a just unbelievable event space.
Well, it didn't really sink into me that it was also the third, fourth, and fifth floors. Like, because Tata has a bunch of space in there too.
Top floor.
Yeah, top floor. I didn't realize that it was majority WeWork.
Yeah, it is. I've been up there. There's, all sorts of different configurations of rooms and stuff, but maybe that's, there was a ton of space that probably didn't get fully utilized.
A couple of openings to talk about. There's word that a new dive bar. Can there be such a thing as a new dive bar? Let's be honest. Like, setting aside this individual project, can there be such a thing as a new dive bar?
It's going to be hard to do, but I trust Dave Kay and the Optimist Society to pull it off.
All right. So the former Casey's Pub is going to be kind of getting a 70s vibe. It's been sitting there for a while, kind of empty. There was like a firehouse theme thing there that was just a train wreck for a hot minute.
Red Corridor. Oh my God.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Like, I was there for the last shot of Casey's. Like, the last night, I remember.
Casey's is great.
Yeah. And so the Red Corridor was not great.
It was not.
It was just not great. So hopefully the Optimist Society pulls something out and makes this happen. Eater reports that they're hoping that the spot will open November 1st, which is very soon. So either they've been working on renovations behind the scenes, or they're kind of like going to go with like how things kind of were. I'm going to be interested to see what it looks like inside?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. They probably don't need to do a lot of development because it already kind of had a dive bar bones to it. Also, again, Dave K and the Optimist Society, they know this space like as good as anyone in the city. They can turn and burn, I'm sure, really fast in terms of build out concepts, things like that.
Now, I remember because we had the people on this very show back in the day when Toma was going to, they were a Hatch Detroit winner or finalist, something like that. I'm scratching the back of my memory banks, but it's going to be like a Mexican themed place that was going to go there, and it never really launched anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will do well. I'm certainly excited for a dive bar in Corktown. I mean, that strip is still, it's still underutilized. There's a lot of cool businesses there, but off topic, on topic, the train station is going to be online next year, Jared, early 2023.
It changes everything.
That changes everything. The center of gravity just becomes this innovation cluster that's happening there. And why not? We need a dive bar. We need a mix of everything. But basically, Corktown's going to need more of everything.
Right. Well, this is going to be right on Michigan Avenue, next door to Bobcat Bonnie's, in case you're not familiar. Now, this next one is tied to the Optimist Society in a way, but no longer, as they've changed ownership as part of reopening. The Peterborough is coming back. Now, we reported in the newsletter first about how they shuttered very quickly, and there were some issues with staff not being aware that they knew about it. In fact, when we called to confirm, staff told us directly they found out that day. So kind of a mess. Don't know all the details yet, but they are opening with a new owner, which is actually a familiar face to them because it's one of the partners when they first opened, like back in the day. So we'll see what happens. I don't have a timeline on this one. I do know that there's like a kind of like a lot of stress around when it comes to staff, and they're very upset on the Instagram. That has been something that's been very obvious for the last couple of days. And, hospitality staff scorned will rarely be quiet.
That is
for
true.
sure. Like that should be just a lesson to everybody. Like, I don't know all the details, but if something got done wrong there, need to make sure that you handle that.
Yeah, and it's probably good that for consistency at least, that one of the partners is taking over. I do think that Peterborough does need some kind of a refresh. I'm not talking about a total rebranding, but I do think, and I think we mentioned this on the show, it had gotten lost in the shuffle in a lot of the new restaurants and places like that. I don't think it's top of mind for a lot of people, and I do think that Peterborough needs re-energization in some aspect, whether that be tweaking the menu, tweaking the branding, getting the word out. But I think this could be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. I want to see good things for this neighborhood. It's that thing. It's right next to that apartment building. Remember the episode like 2 weeks ago where I was like, put apartments in that? It's literally on the same block, but across the street. I think there's so much potential. But like across the way, the old Chung's has not sold.
No, that Chinatown Cass Corridor area, such a cool place with such awesome history. The most vibrant thing you have there now is the shipping containers.
Well, I will just make the mention that you've got the shipping containers, you've got all those things there. But there is a row of Illich-owned buildings down Cass that have not been developed for a long time. So I will just go ahead and go back on my soapbox in, why don't you activate that retail on Cass, Illich family?
I will stay silent on this one. No comment.
Word is that Lafayette Coney Island is back open, Devin.
All right, at long last. I'm sure all of the rat problems are a thing of the past, and we will never hear about that again.
I hope they've taken a bite out of it.
Can you tell my sarcasm?
But I did see a lot of friends post that they ate like 2 days after. Even though I am now a Dooley's guy, are you going to go back to Lafayette at some point? Are you going to dive back in, Devin?
Well, Jer, I'm glad you asked that because I don't find myself going to the Coneys very often these days in any sense. They were more like a late night place for me, and I'm not usually out that late anymore. It's not that late, like after 10. But I would totally go back. I would totally go back because my kind of long-standing opinion, Jer, was that the rats were always there. It doesn't friggin' matter. The Coneys taste the same. Guess what? There are rats in American's basement. There are rats in Lafayette's basement. The Coneys will taste the same.
Can we just be honest that there was some interesting timing with that possible like placard ordinance and then them getting the shutdown?
For sure.
That's some interesting timing. I'm not saying it's connected, but I'm just going to say that's interesting timing.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, so I it will not deter me from going back when I do decide to go back, but I'm also not going to seek it out.
Well, my mom's side of the family had family reunion dinners there, so of course I'm going back. But I will mention, you know what, somewhere I went, I didn't mention this at the top of the show, somewhere that scratched an itch of like comfort food, the Hani at National Coney Island.
Do you know that I really don't know anything about the Hani? Let me explain something to you.
Okay.
I'm a West Sider, man. West Side, Woodward. We don't do Hanis at National Coney Island. It's totally an East Side thing.
It is. And I absolutely People are very divided on it. Now, the Coney was solid. I always get the Hani and a Coney. I keep it real simple. I don't need any fries. There's very few places with good fries nowadays. I'm very particular about my fries. This is something that I learned from engineer Randy, unfortunately. But I do the Hani and I do a Coney. And the Hani is like a warm hug because it's been the same thing for 25 years for me. And I was running errands, actually picking up something from a listener over at Maross and Mac, and stopped in, and it was an inexpensive but glorious lunch.
Well, I will summarize this with a story of my ignorance. Before, like 2 years ago, the only Hani I had ever had was at Honest John's, and I assumed that it was an Honest John's thing, the Hani John. I just thought it was like original to Honest John's.
Everyone rips off National.
I didn't realize that it was like a big thing on the east side. So that's my west side ignorance.
Do you even remember what a Hani is?
Yeah, it's like chicken fingers and cheese.
In the pita,
and lettuce,
like lettuce,
pita,
tomato.
Yeah.
There's usually like some sort of sauce in there.
Yeah, it's a great sandwich. I had plenty of Honey John's at Honest John's. I just thought I was eating something unique to that place.
All right, that is it for today's show. I hope you had some fun today. As always, dailydetroit@gmail.com for feedback, patreon.com/dailydetroit to support us as a member. And of course, thanks to everyone who helps make this show go. Cheyenne Nocerini, Luciano Marcone, Fletcher Sharp, Randy Walker, which, by the way, when you're hearing this, I will already be on the road to Memphis to cover the Detroit City FC playoffs game. Look at all the social media, and of course, we'll be talking more about it next week. I can't wait to get down there, Devin.
I have never been. I've heard only great things. My only ask, Jer, is that during some of your Memphis content, you can incorporate the amazing song Walking in Memphis.
You know it's going to get highly
Please
overused.
work that in. You'll find a way.
Well, with that, I'm Jer Stays.
I'm Devin O'Reilly.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.
Get your fills mixed up.
Too many fills.